the work speech. The evening had arrived, bringing with it a quiet that felt profoundly different from the noise of the day. For a certain individual, whom we shall call Albert. Yes, Albert. Tonight, Albert found his mind replaying not just the day, but a very specific, very nerve-wracking half hour of it. He had given a presentation. And frankly, considering some of his other recent experiences, like that missing shoe incident, this was just what he needed. The morning had started normally. But then, the time had drawn near. Albert had walked into the conference room, the air thick with the scent of stale coffee and unspoken expectations. The projector hummed. The chairs were filled with faces. Faces of colleagues. Faces of management. Including, to Albert's anxious mind, the ever-watchful gaze of Ms. Directive herself. He walked to the front of the room. The whiteboard loomed. The laser pointer felt impossibly light, yet heavy with responsibility. He adjusted his tie, even though he wasn't wearing one. It was a nervous habit. He cleared his throat. Ahem. Good morning, everyone, he began, his voice sounding oddly reedy and far away, as if it belonged to someone else. Today, I'll be presenting on Project Optimus. He tried to smile. It felt less like a smile and more like a grimace. He clicked to the first slide. A very important chart appeared. A chart he had spent hours perfecting. Lines, bars, numbers, all meticulously arranged. This wasn't one of those rapidly fluctuating crypto charts, no. This was his data. As you can see from this data, he stated, trying to sound confident, our Q2 metrics show a significant upward trend. He gestured vaguely at the chart, hoping his hand wasn't trembling. He noticed Mr. Jenkins in the front row. Mr. Jenkins, who always looked vaguely skeptical, even when being told the sky was blue. He also noticed Ms. Directive, sitting a few rows back, her expression perfectly composed, unreadable. Was she thinking about Project Alpha being suddenly irrelevant again? Or maybe the historical napkin usage report? Albert's mind immediately went into overdrive. She thinks I'm wrong. She knows I accidentally used Comic Sans on slide 3. She's judging my tireless neck. Honestly, the sheer amount of internal monologue that can occur during a simple public address. It's truly a marvel. It's like trying to pilot a plane while simultaneously having a very loud debate with yourself in the cockpit. Not my internal monologue, of course. Albert's internal monologue. My very eloquent friend, Albert. He continued, his voice a little faster now, trying to rush through the slides before anyone could ask a difficult question. And here we have the forecasted projections for Q3, assuming a consistent growth trajectory and optimal resource allocation strategies. He tried to make eye contact with someone, anyone, but his gaze kept darting to the clock, or to the slightly smudged whiteboard, or to the ceiling. He felt a bead of sweat trickle down his back. Was anyone noticing? Was it visible through his shirt? He subtly shifted, hoping to create a cooling draft. The silence in the room felt enormous, punctuated only by his own strained breathing and the gentle click of the projector. He reached the Q&A section. The dreaded Q&A. Any questions? He asked, trying to sound open and inviting, but secretly praying for absolute, blissful silence. A hand went up. It was Ms. Caldwell. Miss Caldwell, who always asked precise, incisive questions that required detailed, numerical answers. Albert braced himself. He could almost feel Ms. Directive's silent judgment from the back. Albert, Ms. Caldwell began, her voice clear and steady. On slide 5, you mentioned a potential variance of 0.03% in the initial dataset. Could you elaborate on the methodology used to mitigate that potential margin of error within the projected Q3 outcomes, assuming a nonlinear growth model? Albert stared. His mind went blank. The precise question, the intricate details, the nonlinear growth model, it all swirled into a single, terrifying jumble. He felt a sudden, profound urge to simply open the window and leap out. Not because he was suicidal, but because it seemed like a simpler solution than answering Ms. Caldwell's question. Perhaps even simpler than dealing with missing guacamole, or that perpetually droopy plant. He stammered. Yes, Ms. Caldwell. The variance. We utilized a robust, analytical framework, drawing upon established, industry best practices. He trailed off, vaguely gesturing at the air, hoping it conveyed a sense of deep, unutterable knowledge. Miss Caldwell nodded slowly, her expression unreadable. Albert couldn't tell if he had satisfied her, or merely confused her more thoroughly. The room felt like it was holding its breath. And then, miraculously, the CEO, who had been quietly observing from the back, chimed in. Excellent point, Ms. Caldwell. Perhaps we can take the detailed discussion offline. Thank you, Albert, for a comprehensive overview. A wave of immense, almost dizzying relief washed over Albert. He had survived. The presentation was over. He hadn't collapsed. He hadn't accidentally sworn. He hadn't burst into tears. He had, against all odds, completed the task. Ms. Directive remained impassive, but Albert felt, in his bones, that he had dodged another bullet. He gathered his notes, his hands still trembling slightly, and made his escape from the conference room, the scent of freedom filling his lungs. And as Albert, my very courageous friend, who has certainly faced his share of absurdities lately, drifted off to sleep that night, the hum of the projector and the critical stares of the room faded from his mind. He didn't dream of datasets or nonlinear growth models. He dreamed of quiet spaces, and silent rooms, and the blissful feeling of simply not having to speak in front of a single person. So, if you ever find yourself facing a daunting task, especially one that involves speaking to a room full of judging eyes, and perhaps a misdirective, remember Albert. Remember that sometimes, just getting through it, just surviving the moment, is a victory in itself. And the greatest silence, and certainly the best path to sleep, comes after the words are finally, thankfully, done. Sleep now. And may your dreams be refreshingly free of Q&A sessions.